Hi, and welcome to Mods. We're keeping you connected to inspiring science with virtual camp discovery brought to you by Citrix, the museum's official innovation partner.
Drop in at Mods for a guided tour of Florida Ecoscapes, a story that follows a drop of water from habitat to habitat, eventually leading into the ocean.
Hi, welcome to Mods. Today I'm here in Ecoscapes, one of our hallmark exhibits which has been here since the museum opened. Now, a lot of people come through the Ecoscapes exhibits and see a variety of animals from all around Florida and even some non-native species as well. But there's a narrative to the Ecoscapes exhibit that often gets lost, and I want to take you through that story today just so the next time you come here you have a better idea of what you're looking at. The point of the Ecoscapes exhibit is not only to give you a close-up look at some animals, but also to just give you an idea of the way that habitats are laid out throughout Florida. Florida has a very diverse range of ecosystems just within a small area. And a big part of that is the way that water flows. So we're starting here up top in our Upland Forest. So think of these as just like forests almost like you would find in more northern states like Georgia or Tennessee. Darker, richer soils with a lot of nutrients in it, animals such as black bears and barn owls and white-tailed deers, and more hardwood oak trees base in it, and a lot of rich nutrients in the soil and the underbrush. Now, pretend that we are a drop of water. It's just rained in the upland forest and dropped down onto the floor. And we're going to follow this drop of water all the way out to the ocean through Florida's ecoscapes. So we're coming down here now, and we're going to go down the stairs into our scrub forest. In these upland forests, we have a lot of very nutrient-rich soils. Now, when rain collects and pools into streams that go into rivers, that go into lakes, into a series of bodies of water throughout the state of Florida, it transitions from ecosystem to ecosystem, bringing nutrients from one point to the next. Now, the next habitat we're going to visit is called a scrub. Now, a scrub forest is something that is fairly unique to Florida and not found in many other places in the world. A scrub forest is the result of fluctuations in sea level throughout millions of years, leaving parts of Florida either right on the beach or in the middle of the state, depending on how high sea levels are. Now, the scrub forests, which you can find throughout, especially towards the middle of the state, here towards the southern tip of the peninsula, are basically ancient beaches that are now regenerating into forests. The soil is a lot sandier, more acidic, and is characteristic of some burrowing animals like the gopher tortoises as the keystone species we have here, and the variety of snakes and rabbits that live in those burrows. So now, gopher tortoises are very important because they build burrows for other animals like this eastern indigo snake to live in. And the abundance of gopher tortoise burrows and health of the gopher tortoise species is a good indicator of the health of the habitat overall, which is why we call it a keystone species. Without that species in good health, the rest of the ecosystem suffers as well. Much like the keystone in a brick house holds the whole arch together. So now that our drop of rainwater has gone through upland forests and our beach scrub forests, we're transitioning into more freshwater rivers and lakes that are found throughout the state. Now, these rivers and lakes are taking our water that started from the rain through the forest, bringing nutrients into the lakes, which is providing life for those ecosystems for animals that you'll find, such as these freshwater turtles. We have in this tank a variety of different freshwater turtles that you could find even in the ponds just around town, even in the drainage canals. Very abundant, but dependent on the nutrients coming from that water cycle coming through Florida. Now, here's where it gets very important, because as we have these rivers and lakes that go through the whole peninsula, bringing water all the way down from those nutrient-rich forests up in the northern Florida Piedmont, we're transitioning into our crucial river of grass, the Everglades, where the water's starting to get a little saltier. It's filtering through a lot more life forms and giving us some very unique characteristics, like the iconic American alligator, which in this tank you always see these little baby alligators that we have. So once we're in the Everglades, the water is filtering through all the plant life, all the animal life, and starting to give us much more pure water. But the Everglades also transition into the ocean. So as we have water flowing in from the ocean and out from the lakes and rivers up north in this state, we get these very, very unique habitats called estuaries, called mangrove estuaries. And so this tank over here represents our mangrove estuaries. This is brackish water and connects the lakes and rivers and forests to the ocean, which as we keep moving through the exhibit, we find ourselves in the ocean, in more shallower waters, with one of our oldest residents here. This is a Caribbean spiny lobster. It's estimated to be about 30 years old or so. Caribbean spiny lobsters do not have claws like the Maine lobsters you might be more used to seeing, and they are typically, well, let's just say they're eaten by something. If they can survive that, their natural lifespan can go on for over 100 years sometimes. And as we keep moving towards our coastal environments, we have a tide pool environment characterized by our touch tank here, full of horseshoe crabs, urchins, and other echinoderms, found more in shallower waters and even little tide pools. Now, as we transition to our resident sea turtle, George, we are now in more open waters flowing into the ocean. Loggerhead sea turtles swim across the entire open ocean throughout their lifetimes and can maybe make some pit stops here on the beach. And now as we have traveled through a little bit of coastal waters, we find ourselves in the most diverse ecosystem in the region, coral reefs. And so as we enter into our coral reef cave, we have a couple different examples of this. This is a living coral reef with a variety of different species of coral and a lot of small fish that come and graze around that coral and provide life for throughout the food chain, from very, very plankton level species to sharks and whales and lobsters and more noticeable megafauna. Like we have in here with our dogfish shark and cat shark. And then as we keep going through the cave, not only do we have our living coral reef tank with many different species of coral, including this staghorn coral, which is very important, especially in restoration projects, because it can be grown in nurseries very well. We also have a good example of an artificial reef. Now, this artificial reef takes the same concept of colonizing corals on natural rocks, but where that may have been damaged in some way by maybe ship anchors or overfishing or just environmental stressors. An artificial reef is a good example of how to just take things like cinder blocks and other types of cement, maybe sunken ships, and just giving a home base for some of these coral species to colonize on to give us the bedrock of a coral reef ecosystem. So this has been a narrative tour of our Ecoscapes exhibit. I hope it helps you explore this the next time you come and gives you a little bit more bedrock knowledge to our ecosystems here in the state of Florida.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Virtual Camp Discovery. Special thanks to Citrix, Mod's official innovation partner, for powering this series. Please stay safe and connected with Mods by visiting our social channels at MODSFTL.